What's up everybody? Dilla here, minimalistsurvival.com. Today I'm going to show you how to make micarta scales. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make some micarta scales to replace the Zytel plastic scales that came on my Rat 1. It's a relatively easy improvement. It's a great modification and a way to make a good knife into a great knife. So stick with me, I'm going to show you how we do it. Alright guys, here we are in the garage. Now what we're going to need to make these micarta scales is going to first off be some fabric. So the fabric I use is just an old pair of camo pants I had laying around. They were all wore out, so I figured what better way to give them new life than to make some new scales for my Rat 1. So cut them into strips. Remember that you're going to need to make these oversized. You're going to want them too big and too thick because we can always remove material. You will not be able to add material later, so don't make the mistake that I made the first time and make them too close to fit, because if you end up with little holes or if they're just a little too small, you're hosed. So I'm going to do 10 layers each side. The thickness of these Zytel is actually pretty thin, so I should have plenty of material there. The Dremel tool obviously is going to be for shaping purposes, as well as the belt sander and the sandpaper. You're going to need quite a bit of sandpaper. Obviously you're going to need different grits in order to get the correct finish and polish and stuff that you're going to want as an end result. What you're also going to want is going to be epoxy. I use West System because it's the best, so I highly recommend it. Can't recommend it highly enough. Use good epoxy, it'll pay off in the long run. You're going to need a drill to make the holes and everything so you can get it all put back together. You're going to need some clamps and a board to clamp it with. You need to weight this down to get all the air bubbles out and get a good solid block of micarta. And you're also going to need some plastic material. I just have some Visqueen here, something that the epoxy will not stick to. That way you can do your layers and lay them out, block it down, and when it's all said and done and cured, you'll be able to peel it off real easily without making a big mess. So there's the basic ingredients for what we're going to do here, and stick with me and I'll show you the process. Alright guys, so we got our epoxy all mixed up. You're going to want to mix more than enough. Obviously you're better off to waste some than to get halfway done and need to mix up more. And then all we're going to do is take our strips, dip them in, get them completely saturated. And then you're going to skim off whatever excess. And you're going to lay them down flat. Alright, once you get everything laid out the way you like it, all that's left to do is wrap it. And clamp it off. Alright, hey guys, here we are the following morning. Let's see what we got here. Pull our clamps, pull our weights, pull our board off here. Excuse, I'm doing the one-handed camera operation here, so let's see if I can peel this open here. Epoxy generally doesn't stick to plastic too well, especially this greasy visqueen, so you should just peel right up nice and clean. I'll break it loose, and there you go. Got a couple nice, real solid pieces of micarta here. So yeah, I'm gonna get these cleaned up a little bit, get them a little more true to size, and we'll trace the pattern on there from the scales that are already on the knife. So I'll get that rat one tore apart, and yeah, we'll keep on going. Alright guys, so here we have our cured micarta blocks. Next step is to pull your knife apart, take the scales, and trace the outline onto the micarta. What we're going to do is we're going to use the tabletop adapter and a cutting bit on a Dremel tool to cut the rough outline out. You don't need to make it too pretty because you're going to do the finish work with a little drum sander, and I'll show you in a minute how we're going to do the final little sand down. Alright, once you get your pieces cut and sanded to a rough size, we're going to use a pair of vice grips to clamp the original scale to the new material so all the holes line up and you can just drill them out real quick and easy. It's a lot easier than marking holes and hoping they all line up at the end. Alright, so we have one side that's just a rough sand and a rough cut to fit. And what I've done is I've partially assembled the scale to a piece of the frame. And what that's going to do is allows us to use the frame as a guide, because the micarta will cut far easier than the stainless will. So you're able to run the sanding drum just right along the frame and you get a perfect flush cut. And we're just going to use, you know, the Dremel tool with the tabletop. I'm just going to lay it, you know, flat on the tabletop and just cut right along the edge until it flushes out with that stainless. Alright, so when you finish sanding with the Dremel tool to get everything flush cut to fit, you should end up with something that looks like that. It's just a real rough sand. They're going to need a lot of attention, a lot of polishing and stuff to really make that micarta pop. You can leave them really rough too if you like. They're a lot more tacky and a lot more grippy if you leave them rough. Or you can polish them to a high, it'll polish out to a really high sheen and really show the detail in the fabric you used if you use something decorative. Personally, I like them a little rougher because oftentimes when I'm using them they get wet and I'm out in the bush, and I like a tacky grip. So and because I like to overdo everything, do it once, do it right, rather than just use the supplied hardware to just screw these scales on, I'm going to do that, but I'm also going to use this G-Flex epoxy. I'm going to go ahead and epoxy the scales on too. I don't foresee any reason to ever take them off, and if I do, I can always break that epoxy loose with a heat gun if I need to. Alright, so there they are. Epoxy's all set up, so we're ready to reassemble the knife, and then we'll do a final little cleanup and sand to shape and finish. Alright guys, got her all put back together. Use blue Loctite on everything. I'm going to do a final sand and, you know, smooth out the sharp edges and make it more ergonomic for my hands. I made them a little thicker than the stock scales. I got pretty big hands, so I wanted something that would fill out my hand a little better. So, but so far so good. Real happy. Everything went together really well, and we'll see the finished product here in just a bit. Alright guys, there it is. Now the only bad thing you can really say about a rat one is the cheap, crappy Zytel plastic scales that come on it, but looks like we went ahead and solved that problem with some fresh
OD green micarta. Came out really awesome. It's real clean, real nice, and super grippy yet smooth. You know, there's no texture, but it's just grabby. It's just real tacky. Just a great all-around product. So yeah, we're happy with it. Thanks for tuning in, guys. You know, quick, painless, relatively easy way to turn a good knife into a great knife. Thanks for tuning in. J Dilla signing out. MinimalistSurvival.com.